I made a cake. When I made my YouTube account back in 2008, I never saw myself doing this as a hobby. I saw the platform as a cool way to consume content, but never saw myself on the other side of it. I never assumed anyone would watch what I made. And after almost a year of daily and weekly uploads, I finally made it. So to give all you new people a better idea as to who I am, I thought I'd do something a little bit different and answer 100 questions for my 100 subscriber Subtacular. But one balloon isn't enough, so here we go. That's better. Oh no, the cake! So what just happened? My dad called and said he needed the red car. We switched, and it's a little bit less festive, but I have bubble tea. So this is the first batch of questions here, and they're designed to be lighthearted and hopefully give you guys a better insight as to who I am as a person on the surface. Question 1. How often do you play sports? I don't. I've never really been much of a sports guy. I mean, I'll watch basketball, but that's about it. I bike, and sometimes I've actually recently started going rock climbing, which is super cool. What quirks do you have? I mean, filling up a car with balloons seemed pretty quirky. Maybe that. Also, my collarbones are like flat on both sides. A lot of people I've seen, they go like up at an angle. I don't know if that's much of a quirk, but I got them. What is your dream car? This one I've thought about for a while. Back in high school, it used to be the BMW Z4, which is right there. In college, it was a Subaru STI hatch, but a white one. We'll put it there. After that, maybe a BMW i8, which is here. But nowadays, I think I'd feel like too much of a jerk just driving an expensive car. So maybe buying back the Impreza that we sold. It was reliable, safe, not fast, but it didn't really need to be, and it's right here. It was the coolest purple color too. You guys should have seen it. What songs have you completely memorized? Anything by Lorde, Kanye, Kendrick. I can rap Mad City like the whole way through. I don't know if that's particularly impressive, but I do it like every time I'm in the shower, so there's that. What website do you visit most often? I think Reddit. I've been going there for 6 years now, and I've met a ton of really cool people. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. It probably should, but I don't think it will. What's your go-to video for a laugh? So I used to be really into Vine compilations, but they've gotten a little bit stale, so I've moved on to TikTok. A lot of people think it's still an app for like people just to like lip sync to stuff, but there's some really good stuff there. I'm gonna post one here.
I'm sorry, that was my accident.
I mean, that's really funny. What app on your phone should everybody get? Ooh, I have this one. Okay. It's an app called Sleep Cycle, and I used it to track my like REM sleep, so it like wakes me up at the perfect time. You can see here like every day I've woken up and how much sleep I got and everything like that. I've been doing this for like 1,045 nights straight, and it's really cool getting that insight, and it kind of wakes you up at the perfect time within like a little window. It's worth checking out. What's the furthest you've ever been from home? Maybe Russia. I was there a couple months ago. I went to India for the first time like 5 years back, which was really weird because, I mean, I looked like everyone else, but as soon as I opened my mouth, they knew like I wasn't one of them. Maybe India or Russia. I'm not sure where they are exactly on the map, but I think they're relatively close. What fad or trend do you hope comes back? Mood rings. I got one back when I was like 10 years old at Disney World, and I've wanted it to come back ever since because it changes color based on like, I mean chemicals, but your mood, which is also chemicals. What's worth spending more on to get the best? An office chair. I have spent $1,000 on this Herman Miller Aeron chair I got from work. This is what it looks like. It is probably the most expensive thing I own, but I've been working remotely now for a year and a half, and I have no back pain because of it, so I think it's worth every penny. Alright, so we made it through the first section here. I'm gonna move on to the next batch of 10. These are a little bit more personal, a little bit more interesting, and let's go. What age do you want to live to? 80? Is 80 a good number? Well, science is evolving a bunch, but it's not like we're gonna be immortal in 50 years anyway. I've had some friends' grandparents who got really, really old, and they start to, like, degrade mentally and physically and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to go there. So maybe 80 seems like a good number. 85, within that range. I'm not trying to live to 100. Where is the most impactful place you've ever been? You know, I made a point not to rehearse any answers to these questions, so I'm actually stumped on this one. I'm gonna say India again. You know, it was the first time almost everyone in my family went there, which is kind of insane being Indian, but just seeing a total different style of living. And we stayed with some family that I didn't know existed until we got there. Things are different there, and it really makes you take what you have here for granted. What is the most interesting piece of art you've ever seen? There was one thing that I saw, and I'm not really an art guy, but we were on a cruise ship somewhere, and there was this art by a guy named Slava Iliev. That could be totally the wrong name, so I'm going to put the right name here. But it was this oil painting, but the way he did it, the oil, like, if this was the painting, sideways, the oil, like, leapt out of, like, the canvas by, like, an inch. It was the most amazing thing. It was also, like, 10 grand, so I just grabbed a picture instead, but it looked like this, which is pretty cool. Who has impressed you most with what they've accomplished? I'm gonna say my buddy Daniel. He is younger than me by a couple years. He was born with a ton of really sucky heart conditions, but he managed to work really, really hard and found himself as one of the top marketers compared to people, you know, 10, 20 years older than us. Just admiring that kid's hustles. Phenomenal. How do you relax after a hard day of work? I go outside. Working remotely sucks. You know, you're indoors all day. You don't speak to a living soul. You have no coworkers. There's a lot of downsides to it, but I think the benefit is, you know, come 3 p.m. when work's over, I'm out of there. I can either go on a bike ride or literally do anything, but just being outside and seeing green and blue, it's a lifesaver. What's one thing you really want but can't afford? I'd say a condo in Toronto. I mean, they're going for $600,000 for something, you know, 3 times the size of my car. It's absurd how expensive they are, and that's something that I genuinely can't afford. Maybe one day soon. What is the luckiest thing that has happened to you? I want my parents to mute this for the next little bit, but when I first got my license, I was like 16 or 17. I decided to see how fast my mom's like 2000 Hyundai Accent would be. So I was just driving down like a main road super late at night after the gym, and I was going like double the speed limit, and I got pulled over. And this is the first time I've ever been pulled over. My heart's just pounding out of my chest. He comes up to the door and he's like, you know, license and registration, whatever. So I grab everything. I had to find it. I didn't know where it was. And then he gets radioed. And like, apparently it was something important. I think he was already en route to a call. So as I'm handing this, he's like, is this your parents' car? And I'm like, yes. He's like, how would they feel if you got impounded? I'm like, horribly, like through tears. And he's like, okay, I have to go. Slow down. And he walks away. He didn't even look at my license. I think I used up all my luck that day, and I drive a lot more, you know, safely because of it now. What are some small things that make your day better? Bubble tea, candles, eating oranges in the shower, biking, and like seeing like happy families all over the place, and just kind of appreciating how the summer brings everyone outside. It's super cool. Also cats. What are you looking forward to in the coming months? I mean, I'm hoping to move out. I know I've said that for the past, 1,000 years, but I've been applying to a bunch of really cool jobs downtown. I got a couple interviews lined up too, so if they go well, who knows? What's your favorite piece of clothing that you currently own? I have this one. I'm actually wearing them now. These are my Adidas Ultra Boosts, the Parley ones. They're made of recycled ocean fiber that was taken back out of the ocean and turned into shoes. You can see these here. I think they took 11 bottles from the ocean to make this shoe, but it essentially put me onto Parley as the charity itself, and it just kind of blew my mind how much they're doing for ocean sustainability, which is kind of something I'm starting to care a lot more about now. That was 20 questions. We have quite a few more, so we're gonna jump into the next batch now. What is the most annoying habit that other people have? Leaving shopping carts in parking lots. I don't get mad. I'm not an angry person, but I lose my mind when I see that. Society can't function if people are that lazy where they just can't park their cart in a corral 20 feet away. I made a point that whenever I'm shopping or something and I see someone do that, I pull up next to them, hey, you're gonna put that away, right? Just to make him feel bad. It's the dumbest thing. If you do that, you're dead to me. What's the most annoying question that people ask you? I have two. The first one is, wow, you're so tall, do you play basketball? I'm not that tall, I don't play basketball. The second is something that I get from all my old Indian aunts and my grandma and stuff. She'll literally call me and be hey Neal, and I'm what's up? She's in England. Are you gonna marry an Indian girl soon? And I'm no, probably not. And she's okay, bye. That's literally it. I know she wants the best for me, but I'm trying to get a cat first. That's priority number one. What question would you most like to know the answer to? I'd like to know how the human race is gonna end. I think we're eventually gonna tear ourselves apart somehow, and hopefully none of us will be alive to see it, but I'm kind of curious. Also maybe if aliens exist, I know they do, but I just want confirmation. Maybe what they look like. I'd like a little funny picture of an alien. Why did you decide to do the work you're doing right now? I didn't really decide. Once I graduated, I applied to this big A1 tech company out of Toronto. They were voted the best company in Canada to work for back in 2017. They were the only company I applied for. After 2 months of interviews and stuff, I got the job. They kind of picked me. I didn't have much of a say in that one. I'm not going to say no. What are you most looking forward to in the next 10 years? I will be 34 in 10 years. Wow. I want to have started my own business. I wanted to have founded some sort of not-for-profit. I want to meet someone cool, maybe move in with them. I don't want to think too far into that because that's terrifying on its own right, but I got big plans for the next 10 years. What could you give a 40-minute presentation on with absolutely no preparation? Bionicles. The most popular video on my channel right now is a 30-minute unrehearsed video about the original 6 Bionicles and their iterations, or something like that. It was a big part of my childhood. Right now it's more of a meme than anything. I don't have any. I have one left, but 2. They're super cool, and actually for the next 40 minutes, let me tell you about them. I'm kidding. I'm gonna cut that. What amazing thing did you do that no one was around to see? I mean, this is a story I didn't really plan on telling because I didn't think it was that big a deal, but it was in the dead of winter last year, and I saw this old couple during an ice storm trying to walk home, and they were slipping all over the place. So I pulled over and offered them a ride to wherever they need to go because that's just what you're supposed to do. And they got super thankful about it, and I think about that a lot. I wonder what they're up to because they were hella old, but yeah, I don't know. It's nothing I've really told anyone. I mean, there's no reason to, but I'm kind of glad I did it because it would, and they live 2 blocks away, so it was fine, but that would have sucked to have to walk home in that. When people come to you for help, what do they usually want help with? My mom comes to help for me for anything tech support related. You know, it's actually funny. Whenever I asked her to like send me an image of something, which she used to do, and she's good now, but she copied the image from like Google, pasted it into a Word document, and emailed me the Word document. Bless her heart, but oh my god. What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their lives? Travel. I think seeing the world, and I know this is cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. Seeing the world from a different perspective and seeing how other people live is, I think, foundational in gaining like other perspectives. So if you have the opportunity and you can do it cheaply, go somewhere. If all jobs had the same pay and hours, what job would you like to have? I don't have a direct answer for this one, but I'd want something that makes me feel good inside. So maybe some sort of charity, or maybe some sort of filmmaking that could impact a lot of people in some way. I don't want to be a cog in a system. Not that I am now, but it feels like it sometimes. All right, we are done that round and moving on to the next 10. These are actually pretty interesting. If you were the dictator of a small nation, what would you do? I've thought about this, like genuinely thought about this, because I found this weird post in this like community online about wanting to build some utopia. I don't know if it was just for like a short story or anything, but I'd want an extensive interview process so that anyone coming onto this nation has to be vetted that they're a good, hardworking, diverse, creative person. And of course, this, like in Ria, I've never given more thought to it than that, but it would be really cool to see a society where everyone was handpicked to work perfectly together in that society, kind of almost as an experiment to see what would happen. What is something that is considered a luxury but you couldn't live without? I couldn't live without my second and third computer monitor. Here's a picture of my thing right now. The amount of productivity, you literally double your productivity by having two monitors. The third one is just for like Spotify or Netflix or whatever, but if you only have one right now, try to. It will change your life. What gets you fired up? Being in a crowd, I'd say. I was downtown Toronto for when the Raptors won the finals, and it was crazy. There's just this electric vibe that surges through everyone, and a lot of the times, like, I feel like disassociated from events that are going on, kind of like, you know, I'm looking at it from the outside in or whatever, but when it's a big crowd like that, when it's a concert or something where everyone's feeling the same vibe, it's amazing. What makes a good life? J. Cole said this in one of his live concerts, but I think love, you know, having a bunch of people around you, family, friends that you love and you care about, I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people around me, especially business grads, they prioritize wealth, but as I'm kind of growing up a little bit more, and I know it's funny because I'm 24, but I think it's a means to an end and a way to get happy. I don't think it means happiness, because I know a lot of rich people and a lot of them are miserable. What risks are worth taking? I've never understood the mentality of not doing something because you're embarrassed or afraid of what other people would think. I've got some friends, and I mean, introverts, that's something I don't quite understand, but it's valid, I'm sure, but not wanting to wear a certain outfit or to go to a certain place or to eat dinner alone one day just because you're afraid of what strangers will think, it's never quite made sense to me. I don't know. What do you take for granted? I'd say I've got some really good parents, and I try to be as nice to them as I can, but I'm definitely well aware how I've hit the jackpot, and if I could roll the dice again and try for something else, I don't think I ever would. Who inspires you to be better? Going off that last one, my mom and my dad, I think. My mom started in some like boring accounting job, and she built I was gonna say an empire, but damn close. She built a huge, like a company, from like nothing. And she had the product idea. My dad did the sales. I helped with graphic design. Like it's crazy seeing that process firsthand. I thought I'd be the entrepreneur of the family, but I think she has me beat. What do you have doubts about? When I joined this company, I was kind of promised the ability to move up to a real life job internally. They got the cool office, they got $1 billion of funding, office dogs, unlimited vacation, catered food, all that tech company stuff. But there's like 1,000 people doing my job, and I'm very doubtful that despite what I've picked up, I don't see myself really finding an internal job anytime soon. That's life. What's the best thing about you? I kept this question in because it purposely made me uncomfortable. I think I'm like a hard worker. I think I'm like loyal. I think I'm a good person. I think that's maybe the big one. I think I have a pretty dead set moral compass, which, a lot of people have, but a lot of people don't. What's the hardest lesson you've learned? I'd say just because you like someone and they like you back doesn't mean that's enough for a relationship to work. It's a tricky lesson. It's an unfortunate one, but I think it helped a lot with self-growth and kind of knowing your own place, and what's best for both you and them. So that's a tricky lesson, but I think it's something that probably everyone's going to go through, and it does make you grow as a person. We're almost halfway through this list. I gotta restart this camera. It's overheating. What irrational fear do you have? Going down escalators. When I was a kid, I saw somebody fall down an escalator in England. We used to go there like every summer or two. And it's a foundational fear. Even today, like when I know I'm good on an escalator, I'll wait like 2-3 steps to go down, like cycle, just to get on to make sure I have the right footing. I don't even know if the guy really fell. I don't know if that was just in my head or not, but it terrified me. What's something you are self-conscious about? I'd say my teeth. My canines are like super pointy, and they're not like flat and perfect like everyone else's on YouTube. They're also not like blind, like I want them like blindingly white. I actually went to a cosmetic dentist to talk about it, but he said, I think he'd put me on like Invisalign, take 2 of the teeth out for like overcrowding. The process would take like 1.5 years, and it would cost me like 11 grand. That's not happening. Have you ever given to any charities? I have. Every year my company gives us a allocated amount we can take out of our salary to donate to some organization, and they'll match it. I have donated to Parley before. That's the one I donate to every year, and it's it's the water organization. They fund a bunch of beach cleanups and things like that. I buy their shoes. Anything ocean conservation related, I kind of like. What's the best compliment you've ever received? Nothing really comes to mind, but actually, the other day I was at Party City buying 100 balloons to fill the other car with, and the girl there said I had a really nice shirt, totally out of the blue, which is like super nice because like I was feeling iffy about the shirt that day. It wasn't this shirt, but it meant a lot. Yeah. What chance encounter changed your life forever? Now, I don't know if this is forever, but there was a kid I met, and I made a video about this, but there was a kid I met in downtown Toronto after some party. It was like at 1 a.m. at the train station, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey, I am one of your subscribers, I'm a huge fan of the channel, etc. Blew my mind. Still blows my mind that a single person on earth that I don't know in real life actually watches my content. I don't think I'll ever forget that. What do you want to be remembered for? I haven't given a lot of thought about kind of a legacy, because I mean I still have like an insane amount of life left, but maybe for a film that changed a lot of people's perspectives or impacted them in some way. Maybe for some sort of philanthropy, something meaningful. I don't want to just be like, oh, he had like a Rolex and he had like the Supreme logo engraved on it. I don't care for anything like that. Who is your most interesting friend? This one kind of plays on the word interesting a little bit, but my friend Robert, he's my best friend. I've known him for like 10 years now, and he, ever since we were even like when we were 14 years old, he liked heavy metal music, he liked the guitar, he liked dogs, he liked a bunch of things like that. 10 years later, that guy has not changed at all. Whatever he picks up, he doesn't put down. And as someone who bounces around hobbies like every 3 months, it's mind-blowing to me the amount of dedication he has for that. What is the most memorable gift you've ever received? I think, without getting into specifics, a couple gifts from girls that I've been dating have always been the most thoughtful things. I'm one of those people to put like a month's worth of effort into like gifts for people just because I kind of like doing it, but having that reciprocated is kind of an insane feeling. I remember once I got this big care package and I opened it up and there's like 50 things inside in another box, and then I opened that up and there's more things inside and then get smaller and smaller. Anything that requires thought, because like we're at that age now, like all my friends and I, where if we want something we're just gonna buy it, but anything with that level of thought and care behind it is amazing. What do you spend the most time thinking about? I think about the future more than I think about the present, I think. I know that's not healthy. I know that the whole kind of disassociation thing isn't probably a good thing, but I feel like I'm living most of my life looking forward to something, which isn't good because I should be appreciating what I have now. Yeah. What is something you can never seem to finish? Ideas. I think I'm one of those people who has like a business idea, buys a domain, builds a website, and then it just slowly dies. I've done that dozens of times. Funny enough, one of the only things that have stuck for almost more than 1 year is this, making videos and producing some sort of content. For some reason, it's one of the only things that I haven't been able to put down, which is kind of crazy. All right, we are halfway through. If you're still watching this, I don't know what I'm gonna look at the analytics to see it just kind of like go down, but if you're still watching this, that's insane. What mistake do you keep making again and again? I mean, I try to like be mindful of my mistakes and correct them. Something small though is my dad gets super mad when I do the laundry from like 5 to 7 p.m. because that's like peak energy hours or something. It's like an extra 30 cents, but he's a stickler about that. I get off work at like 4, so I do the laundry at 5, and it always ends up in that window. I've got to stop doing that, but like if I go out at 8 and I don't have any clothes, I gotta do something. And sometimes I literally just put like a toonie on the washing machine, and he can deal with that, but I don't know. What's the best thing you got from your parents? Genetically or like mentally? You're a camera, you can't talk. Genetically, I'd say I'm healthy. I'm relatively really good metabolism, so I don't really need to work out as much, and as long as I'm kind of mindful of whatever I eat. My nose is too big, but that's nothing I can fix. Mentally, I think I got a lot of really good stuff from them. I think they're both like A1 people, and yeah, I'm just happy to have at least some of those traits because they're phenomenal. What's the best and worst thing about getting older? I'd say the independence for sure. Being able to do anything I want is really cool, but being able to do anything I want means there's a lot of pressure and not a lot of structure. And I think that can be kind of messy sometimes, especially if you like having structure or you thrive with, some sort of direction. You kind of got to learn to set your own direction. What's the scariest monster you can imagine? Let me tell you. There is this tale of a slit-mouthed woman. If you know me in real life, I've already talked about this, so skip ahead like a minute, but you're in Japan. Picture this, dark and stormy night, right? This woman comes up to you, and she's been trailing you for a little bit, this old little frail woman hunched over. And you stop back and you turn around because, what if she's hurt? What if she needs something? And she slowly takes off her surgical mask, and her mouth is slit all the way up here, and it's just hanging open. And she says, in Japanese, I assume, Do you think I'm pretty? And, you're taken aback by that. If you say yes, she'll say, what about now? And then she'll eat you. If you say no, she'll say, oh, and then she'll eat you. It's scarier in my head, but how to defeat her in case you ever come across a slip-mouthed woman is that you should either say maybe or like, you're okay, because then she'll be like, okay, and then she'll leave. Or you take your shoes off and you throw them away from her, because apparently she's like hella like super into like cleaning and stuff, so like she'll run out and clean and like align your shoes and then come and kill you, but you'll be gone by then because she's an old woman. Slip-mouthed woman. So dumb. What challenging thing are you working through these days? I don't know if you call it a quarter-life crisis, I'm about to, but finding the next step in my career and where I am as a person. I want to move downtown, I want to meet a whole bunch of new people, but it's kind of terrifying to make that jump. That's where I'm at. What is one responsibility you really wish you didn't have? I mean, I don't know if this necessarily answers the question, but I kind of hate having to be the only person in the family who looks after my aunt. She's not sick or anything, but like, I'm the one who like runs and gets the groceries for her and like goes and drops her off to appointments and stuff like that. It's fine. Like, it's not, it's my job to help her. I'm part of her family, but I kind of wish the other people around me would just kind of pick up some of the slack, because man, she gets under my skin. If your childhood had a smell, what would it be? Grubby little hands having just eaten like SpongeBob spaghetti and then going to play with like Lego for 12 hours. It's really specific, but that's where I go. In your group of friends, what role do you play? I'm the parent of the group. I'm the dad or the mom or whatever you want to call it. It's I don't drink. I'm the one with the car, so pretty much every time I'm the one babysitting. I don't hate it, but that's kind of the role I've dropped into. Which of your scars has the best story behind it? I have a scar like right here on my forehead. Back in high school, I used to straighten my hair. I was going through a phase, so I like straightened it down over my. I was like 230 pounds back then, by the way. Straightened my hair using my mom's hair straightener, but I didn't really know how to work it, so I just like singed my forehead, and it's still there. I think I've erased like almost every picture of it. Maybe for 1,000 subs I'll show you one, but it was a rough time. What have you created that you are most proud of? This YouTube channel. I am astonished that I've been able to keep something up for over a year now without dropping it like every single one of my other hobbies. And it's gotten to the point now where people are watching this who don't know me in real life, which is the most insane thing to think. Why would you watch? I don't know, but if you're here, thank you. Okay, 40 questions left. These get a lot more philosophical, so if that's what you're into, here we go. What do you strongly suspect but have no proof of? I think that there are multiple cures out there for various big diseases that pharmaceutical companies and governments are hiding in an effort to keep making money on their drugs. I have not done any more research past that. It's just an idea that went into my head. I don't know how feasible it is whatsoever, but it seems like something they do, right? Like, I don't know. What bends your mind every time you think of it? The idea, and I think the definition is like called Sonder or something, but the fact that I've lived my entire life as the main character in my story, but every single person that walks by, I'm a background character. That every single person on Earth is their own main piece of the puzzle, and everything else around them, impacts them. The amount of interconnectedness is just mind-blowing to me sometimes. What's the title of the current chapter of your life? Stasis? Purgatory? Frozen solid? Pregnant pause? In between chapters? Etc. What is something that your friends would consider so you? I had one of my friends see some person with like a backpack, but it was like made of clear acrylic, so you could see like right through it. And they're like, oh, only Neal would wear something like this. Yeah, I would. So probably that. Anything outlandish, I think, is kind of a bit more my territory. What is something horrible that everyone should try at least once? This one's actually coming from a conversation I had with one of my friends. Everyone should be broken up with. He's, I think, about to hopefully enter his first relationship soon, and and I hope it works, but when it doesn't work, it's gonna crush him, but the amount it builds your character and strengthens you up as a person is something that I think everyone needs to go through in their life, and hopefully sooner than later, because it's harder the older you get. As the only human left on Earth, what would you do? If I was 100% sure that there was no other human being on Earth, I'd probably find a sports car, drive up to some cliff somewhere, maybe try to survive for a bit, and just like kind of go with the flow. I don't think I'd have any major survival intentions, because like the rest of the world shut. Are cats and dogs still like around? Because maybe I'd find some cats. You know. What did you think you would grow out of but haven't? I'm gonna drop it back to Bionicles. I mean, I'm over them. I've sold the entire collection, but I still have a few, like the Kopaka, the Borog one, so the small ball type, but the evolution of that. He sits inside my computer to keep it cool, because it's like overheating all the time. And I still have Liwa, the green one, with the wings that, actually I have two of them, so when you get, never mind. What are the 3 most significant numbers in your life? 23. I was born on the 23rd of December, so 23. The number 3, it's my mom's birthday. It's a cool number, like, that was the opposite, but yeah. Also 31, that has no meaning to me, but when I was in Vegas, I put a bunch of money on 31, and it hit, and I got like 30 times my payout, which is pretty crazy. What are some of your personal rules that you never break? I think I just have one. I try to treat every other human being kind of like I'd want to be treated. I know it's something they teach you from primary school, but the amount of selfish people out there who put themselves before like everyone else is mind-blowing to me. I think we all need to take a step back and just realize like we're part of this human collective, and being selfish is not good for kind of the benefit of society. It just wouldn't work that way. What is the best and worst piece of advice you've ever gotten? The worst advice is from my aunt, who said, don't take any risks because you're trying to live super long. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think if I lived my life without risks, I'd end up like her. I don't want to do that. And I mean, that's something else. I think you got to take that with a grain of salt every time someone gives you advice. It's kind of tailored to them and what works for them. So if you don't like how they've turned out as a person or how their life has turned out, maybe it's not the best advice. Wow, we're actually making progress. 30 more questions left. What annoys you most about the in-groups you're a part of? My friends like cars. I don't like cars. I used to like cars, but we sold my favorite car and now I'm just over it. I don't like going to car meets or anything. I like the people there, but I don't want to walk around a parking lot looking at a bunch of Subarus anymore. What small gesture from a stranger made a big impact on you? I was once outside like a Nations, which is like an Asian grocery store. It was like 10 p.m. or something. And there's this old guy outside the garden center like loading a bunch of like soil and stuff into his car. I asked if he wanted a hand or something, and he said no, but he said I was like a really good person. I was just one gesture. He didn't know me as a person, but it kind of sat with me. Like it was a really nice thing for him to say. So maybe that. What do you regret not doing or starting when you were younger? Picking up a camera. I experimented with photography a little bit, but I've never tried video. Back in high school, grade 9, I used to be super into it for class, but I never really picked it up after that just because I didn't want to get in front of the camera. It was super uncomfortable to me, but I'm so glad I did now. What can you not get right, no matter how many times you try? Family trees. The concept when my mom tries to explain something of like how my second cousin is related to me, unless it's written out on paper, I can't picture it. I'm a visual learner, but for whatever reason, family trees, there's nothing that goes on. I need it on paper. What question can you ask to find out the most about somebody? There's one question, and I'll keep it short, but the concept is, if there was a button that you could press and it would assassinate a random stranger on Earth, bullet straight through the head, they'd never know it was you, and you get 100 grand deposited in your bank account, how many times would you press the button? The correct answer is none. You wouldn't go near it. But I am still shocked how many of my friends would press it. Also, the idea of like, oh, I'll only press it 5 times because I don't want to kill a bunch of people. If you press it once, I mean, it shows a lot about your character as a person. And it's an ugly character trait. I've asked this question to a few people, and I'm still kind of amazed how many people would take the money. I don't want to be killed because someone else wants a brand new BMW, you know? What goals did you set out 5 years ago that you didn't accomplish? 5 years ago, I was in college. I wanted to buy myself a Rolex when I graduated, and I almost did. I am so glad I didn't, because I would be the biggest jerk walking around with 10 grand on my wrist. What lifestyle change have you been meaning to make for a while now? I want to drink more protein shakes and stuff, and just kind of be healthier overall, but the protein powder I have tastes horrible, so I'm just waiting for my little brother to use it up so I can like get a decent flavor. Because like vanilla, it's not my thing. In what situation would you feel the most out of place in? I mean, I don't drink or smoke, or really, I'm straight edge as far as we're concerned, but I went to a party a while back and they were playing board games and I thought it was like a party. The most uncomfortable time. It was just people sitting around playing Boggle. Not for me. There are 2 types of people in this world. What are the 2 types? Someone actually told me this a while back, and I think I agree with her. It's, I think there are givers and there are takers. And I don't know if one's, necessarily bad, but I think I definitely fall into the former camp. And I think that's an interesting distinction to make between people. What are some events in your life that have made you who you are? Going to university after college, I think that was a big mistake, and I call that a waste of 3 years. I'd say meeting a bunch of people that are no longer in my life. It's interesting seeing the impact someone can have on you in such a short amount of time. I think my grandparents passing away was pretty hard. Within like 8 months of each other, we flew to England, did the whole funeral thing, and then came back home and flew right back in a few months. That was pretty horrible. I think there are a lot more. Nothing else comes to mind off the top of my head, but those are definitely some foundational thoughts for sure. So we've got 20 questions left. These hit hard, a lot of them, or they at least require a lot of thought. So hopefully for whoever's watching still, get ready. What would you do with $2 million? This is one of the hypotheticals that I think I've given the most thought to. I would put every penny of that in a high interest ETF or savings account or something to churn out about 5% interest a year. That's all I need. From there, based on that interest, I can live essentially in 100 grand salary for the rest of my life. I can pick up any job I want because money's not an issue. It's enough to afford a nice little condo somewhere. And if managed well, and I'm not quite sure how inflation works, but that money could be in my family for generations and decades from now. I think that's really cool. The last thing I do is buy a Rolls Royce or something like that. It just doesn't make sense to me. What are you really good at, but kind of embarrassed how good you are at it? I trained karate for like the first 10-15 years of my life. So like my bones are super bendy. I can throw like my foot behind my head or something like that. And that's not a party trick that I'm ever going to bring out or should bring out, but it's something I can do. If you could make one rule that everyone had to follow, what rule would you make? I would want everyone on Earth to treat everyone else how they would want to be treated. A simple rule like that should be enough to fix most of our problems. We'd stop firing bombs at other countries. We'd stop littering. Like, who litters? That's just like a basic moral compass on every human being on Earth. I think that's the big one. What keeps you up at night? I'd say the stress of just wanting to kind of uproot my life and start fresh a little bit. That's stressful. It should be stressful. It's a big thing. That's something I think about way more than I should. What's the most illegal thing you've done? This one's a funny story. Kanye West canceled his tour, his second show, in Toronto, like a couple years ago. So I bought a bunch of blanks of the same, like, shirt that he used for his tour merchandise, replicated the design pixel for pixel, but changed the, like, tour date on the back with show canceled. And I sold like 10 grand worth of merch in like a weekend online. I charged like 80 US for each of these shirts. Definitely super illegal, definitely not a parody. I definitely should have gotten hit by like some sort of copyright thing. I shut down the site because I got a little bit afraid, but profiting off of that was definitely super illegal, and I would do it again in a heartbeat because I paid for like all my textbooks. What do you most often look down on people for? How people treat customer service employees or anyone who's working. Seeing someone be rude to, like, I was at Goodwill like a couple years ago and I saw some guy like berating this poor lady who worked there because like the stock was delayed in coming in or something useless like that, but he was so mad at her. It doesn't make sense to me how people can get that mad. When was the last time you did something to look cool, but it ended in utter embarrassment? When I was in senior year of college, I was running late to an exam. I just woken up. It was like, I think, a stats exam or something. I had 2 that day. And I go outside to go to school. Both my parents have taken the cars. I didn't want to pay for an Uber. I was still okay on time, so I run down to the bus station, but I decide to save a couple minutes. I would cut through this gated community. I've never done that before, so I do, and there's a fence at the end. And the fence kind of looks like this, with like a bunch of like decorative spikes coming up. So I decide, I don't have time to go all the way around the community and back out again, so I decide to hop the fence. It's facing a gas station, so I try to hop the fence, but my back jeans belt loop gets caught on one of the decorative spikes, and I'm like stuck, and I'm just hanging there for like the entire gas station to see. So I'm like squirming and wiggling, trying to like break this like thing or hoist myself up. I break the belt loop, and I land, and I'm okay, whatever. I make it to school, I write my exam, I eat lunch, I go back to school, I write the other exam, I come home, and then I realize it wasn't just my belt loop that ripped. I had this huge tear all across my butt. No one said anything all day. The worst. What issue do most people think is black and white, but you think there's a lot of nuance to? Solving homelessness is a big one, I think. It's not as easy as just dropping off a bunch of food or making cheap housing. There are so many things that go into it, even with training and kind of the mental side of it. It's not an easy problem to solve, and I don't envy anyone who has to try to solve it. Why is it so hard for people to make real connections when almost everyone wants to make those connections? I picked this question because I think it's super topical, especially now in 2019. We are so shielded by technology. You go to anyone's Instagram page, it's a highlight reel, and I know everyone says this, but it is. It's a highlight reel of their best and brightest moments. Talking to people over Snapchat or Instagram DMs or something, it's not the same as a real life conversation. And that's kind of why I'm doing this whole car talk thing, because like nobody talks to anyone else anymore. It's an issue. As you get older, what are you becoming more and more afraid of? I'm not afraid of getting older myself. I'm afraid of people around me getting older, because that's, I think, an unfortunate reality literally everyone has to face, but I would rather not. Oh my god. A bird just landed on my car. Okay, so I was just recording this video, and a bird landed on my car. I'm gonna reach out to it slowly. Oh, that was beautiful. And with that, we have 10 questions left. What is most likely to bring about the extinction of the human race? I think we're all gonna kill each other somehow. I think some terrorist group is gonna grab some sort of nuclear weapon. They're not gonna care about the concept of mutually assured destruction. They're gonna bomb someone, we're gonna bomb them, etc. I think we're gonna tear ourselves apart before the environment can do that too. What are your biggest goals for life? What progress have you made in attaining them? I want to start a viable business. I want to meet someone really cool. I want to have kids. I want to start a charity. I want to donate to a bunch of things. There's a lot on my list. I don't think I'm anywhere near there yet, but I think I have a lot of time to. Is human nature constant or something that's molded by culture? This is interesting. One of the girls that I know, she is a teacher. And it kind of gives me a cool secondhand perspective on how things work with kids. Based on what she told me, and I think I agree with her, is that kids are sponges for their environment. I'm sure that every kid has some preconceived chemical balance in their brain that makes them, makes certain traits more or less prevalent, but I think if you have horrible parents, you're probably going to be a bit horrible yourself. If you have great parents, you might be really good. Of course, things change, you meet friends, they're part of your surroundings too, but I think we're all products of things that are around us. How important are morals in a healthy society? What are some important morals for citizens to have? We're all in this together. I know that's a High School Musical lyric, but I think not a lot of people realize that we are a human collective. We're all one species trying to survive as a whole. It's so easy to get so boxed into your own thing, but using relationships, meeting new people, that's what this is all about. We're not built to work in condos and buildings and stuff like that. We're built to meet people and evolve us. How would you react if there was irrefutable proof that God does or doesn't exist? If I knew for sure God didn't exist, I'd probably behave the same way I do now. I think, and I know a few friends who are literally some of the best people I've ever, the ideal person. And they're incredibly religious, and I think the church has some good qualities, like community and, togetherness and things like that, but I don't think I could ever live my life assuming that there's any other character with control out there other than me. As well, just when I see certain kids when they're 2 years old being raised up in this, it feels like a little bit like brainwashing. And I'm sure they have the best intentions, but we're products of our surroundings. If you're born up a devout whatever religion, chances are it might stick. And I'd prefer to raise my kids with as open a mind as possible. If sacrificing your own life would save the lives of a specific number of strangers, how many strangers would need to be saved for you to sacrifice your own life? What if the people are friends? What about family? This is an ugly question that I didn't want to answer, so I put it in here anyway. I'd say the answer entirely depends on context. If there's, 10 people sitting on a scale and you have to stand on the other one, and that way you drop down instead of them, I probably wouldn't do it. But if someone I knew was on a train track and they didn't see a train coming, yeah, I'd push them out of the way. I think anyone in my family I'd kind of swap lives for, but it's a lot harder with strangers for sure. God, that was a political answer, wasn't it? What does the ideal life look like? Simple. I've been watching a lot of videos from people who live in Hawaii, and I'm going somewhere with this, believe me, and it's just, they're out there working fields of grain and stuff on farms and with other people, and it's beautiful outside. There's no condos or cement. I think that's how human beings were supposed to live. This is just kind of this urban landscape or urban crawl, whatever they call it. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think we were built to sit down and work for 8 hours a day. But that's just kind of par for the course. I don't see that going away anytime soon. What was the question? What is the most beneficial emotion? How about the most destructive? The most destructive emotion is anger. I have said this. I don't get angry. I can't remember the last time I was like angry, but it's insane to me when I see people snap because of certain things. I don't understand how anyone can be that angry or frustrated at any given point. It's just never occurred to me. The best emotion is love. J. Cole said it, everyone said it, but I think that's what we were here for, to meet and, enjoy the presence of other people. And I think that's something that no amount of money can buy. Is humanity headed in the right or wrong direction? This is a trick question. I think there are a lot of things we're doing really well as a collective, but a lot of things we really need to work on. The amount of war, poverty, pollution. The top 3 families in the United States are making more than the bottom 50%. There's a lot of disparity and inequality out there, which needs to be corrected. But we're doing a lot of things good. We're not using straws as I drink this bubble tea. I think there's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things, and it's not healthy to look at one or the other. I think you need to look at everything together. Last question. Are you going to answer 1,000 questions for your 1,000 subscriber Subtacular? Yeah. I thought about that answer yesterday, when my YouTube channel had like 101 subscribers. Now I'm at like 250. Yeah, I'll answer 1,000 questions when I hit 1,000, but if I can take a couple minutes to say, like, when I hit 100 subscribers, it was astonishing, because I've made a point not to tell, or not to ask anyone of my family and friends, like, yo, can you subscribe to my channel? I'm not that kind of person. If you like the content, subscribe. If you don't, I don't want you to be bothered by this video coming up every week. I don't know 100 people. I haven't told 100 people about this channel personally. And the fact that there is way more than that now, it's just blowing my mind, I know in the grand scheme of things on YouTube, you go to the trending page, everyone has 1 million subs and like 14 million views on a video, whatever, but 100 is a lot of people, Imagine being in a room and talking to 100 people and they're all listening. That's incredible. And I've more than doubled that in a couple days. I'm at a loss for words. Thank you. I've said that like 1,000 times, but I mean it. This is incredible. I never thought that when I first started this channel with 0 subscribers that I could organically grow it to something substantial. It's phenomenal. And I don't think I'm ever gonna stop producing content anytime soon. I think I'm gonna keep changing it. But just the amount of support that I've kind of gotten from the community and whatnot, it's amazing. I could go on, and I have been going on, but thank you again. This isn't the last video you're gonna see from me. My merch is in the bio. That's not true. I don't have merch. But thank you, and I will see you guys at 500.